on a business level, just to be able to expand myself to this region of the world. California is one great destination in itself, which people seek out. And now I have Tuscany and Europe, and I'm the most privileged person I've ever met.
You're listening to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creatives where we sit down, often with a special guest, and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry. Today is our third and final episode in our series on moving your business to a new location, and we're going to be talking to Dan Sauer on this topic. Unlike our last two guests, Dan didn't exactly choose to move his business to another country. In fact, he was forced to take these steps to move from the States to Italy in order to maintain doing the job that he loves and being with the ones that he loves, his family. We thought talking to Dan would be an interesting listen, especially after having Alessandro on last week's episode, as the two have essentially traded places. Continue listening if you've enjoyed our chats with Melody and Alessandro, but let Dan bring an alternative perspective on the topic of moving your business and of the Italian wedding market. This episode is, of course, sponsored by With Jack, but I'll get onto that a little bit later in the show. In the meantime, Greg, what are we drinking today?
Well, we didn't manage to get a new coffee in since the last episode.
We did not.
So I've just brewed up the same Tim Wendelboe coffee that we had last episode.
Yep.
For my morning coffee. But what are you drinking at 10 o'clock on whatever day it is?
I am drinking a Wild Beer Co. Sleeping Limes. It says here, what is it? A lager, a goes, a sour, all or none of the above. Simply put, it's the most refreshing beer we've ever brewed. So that really means it's a morning beer, right?
Well, so that's what we're drinking in the Cinemate office. But Dan, what are you drinking? Are you going for the beer, alcohol at this time of day?
Oh, it tastes great. Tastes great.
Well, I'm starting my day with a coffee here. Got a local roaster called Dita Artigianale, and I have their Mamma Mia espresso blend, which is really good.
Ooh,
cool. How do they tend to roast their coffee? Are you a bit of a coffee connoisseur yourself?
I would not say that I'm a connoisseur. I'm an appreciator.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you look at the beans, do they look quite dark?
Yeah, these ones are dark.
Okay.
This particular place has like a bunch of different kinds that they roast from different regions. And I did a tasting. We had some guests coming over and I wanted to like have nice coffee. So took it upon myself to go and have a little, 6-round espresso shot just to get some taste. And this was the one that I landed on, flavor profile at least fit my desires.
Yeah, I love the world of coffee. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I feel it's kind of like wine in a way, or whiskey that you know, in the way that you can talk about it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
How it's roasted, where it's from. You know, all these things contribute to different taste profiles of each bean, and I find it really fascinating.
Yeah. I just on the back here, it shows. It sounds just like a bottle of wine. It goes. This espresso blend is full-bodied, low acidity, and intense aftertaste with notes of dark chocolate, dark fruits, and black cherries. And like, am I having wine or coffee? But it's really, really good.
I mean, you're in Florence, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So have you always liked this sort of Italian style dark roast espresso?
It's a good question. I guess I did start drinking a lot more coffee once moving here. It's just so much a part of the life. It's amazing. Like in the States, you'll spend $5 or $6 on a cup of Joe, and out here you toss over €1 and you get an espresso shot. It's like it's a need that they service everyone here. you have a macchiato at the end of a meal and a cappuccino to start your day, and it's something just culturally that just gets infused everywhere you go.
Yeah,
I love the culture of coffee in Italy. It's not the type of coffee that I normally go for, but when you're in Italy, that culture of just sitting out in the street with your espresso, just taking your time. I love that culture.
100%. This just it flew into my mind here. Just a wee story. We were shooting years ago in a venue called Il Boro. It's not too far from Florence, or is it Rome? Where did we fly into?
It's between the two.
Okay. Anyway, so it's kind of this old medieval town and new spa area, and they had this cafe. And I remember on one of the mornings we were just needing to waste a little bit of time, us professionals as we are. So we went into the cafe and we got 2 espressos, and I remember falling in love with them. And I wasn't that much into coffee at the time, but I still have fond memories of that cafe, that cafe and that espresso.
Yeah,
I loved it. It was so smooth, and although I did put sugar in it, that probably, yeah. I don't tend to take anything with my coffee now, but yeah.
Well, they do. I haven't figured out why, but they always offer 2 different kinds of sugar. When you go to the stand-up, walk up coffee shop.
Uh-huh.
And you pick out your espresso. They'll have like a fully granulated sugar and then like a really refined sugar. And depending on who you are, I guess that people do add it.
Uh-huh.
Where the judgment comes in is how much milk you use and what time of day and what meal you're eating it with. And
yeah,
if you get a cappuccino after a full meal, you get some side eyes on you.
Are the sugars different colors, or are they all white?
One's kind of more golden and one's white.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we see that sometimes over here as well. I've never gone for a brown sugar in a coffee before. Have you?
No sugar at all.
Nah,
straight black.
Not even milk. Sometimes with a wee splash of milk, or milk alternative in my case.
Yeah.
A wee flat white for lunch. Good time to have a coffee.
So how's your weekend or week been? What you been up to?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I actually just returned from Rome after shooting a destination wedding for an American couple, coordinated by Valentina, whom you guys introduced me to from Italian wedding events.
Very cool.
Cool.
Yeah, so it went really well. It was an awesome shoot. 14 hours in the end, but everything turned out great. After the ceremony, they rented a car, so we got to drive all around Rome to these key spots and just shoot away in the golden light. Then they had an intimate reception with like 20 guests. They rented out a whole restaurant. They just like feasted all night and danced the night away. It was amazing.
Sounds good.
Did you partake in any of this feasting and drinking and partying?
That's the wonderful thing about weddings out here in Italy. Is like they feed their vendors really well. Compared to the States, like you get this little vendor meal, they'll hand you like a box with a sandwich and some crisps. But when you're here, you get the 15-course meal and you get to dine with the guests and be in the middle of it. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. When we used to shoot in Italy for Brenda, there was always this supplier table. It was just full of food, full of wine. But I loved that they suffer from the same issue. And if you're a musician out there, I apologize, but the bands are known for eating all the food here and over there. So I found that just really funny, to be honest.
I'm sure not all bands are like that.
I'm sure not all bands.
There's a stereotype there.
There is. I'm sorry for playing on the stereotype. I am.
Yeah, another thing that was interesting was other vendors hung out to join in the feast. Like the florists were there till the end of the night, which I'm not used to. Usually they come in, set up, take off, but these guys like hung out all night, chat with the different vendors, like enjoyed the whole cuisine that was served. And
who was doing the flowers?
I have to look that up, but yeah, it was one of another Valentina recommendation.
For the people who don't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself and tell them what you do?
Well, my name's Dan Sauer, originally from Los Angeles. Been shooting weddings since 2013, and I recently made a big move over to Florence, Italy, with my family, and now I'm servicing both the Italian and American markets and all across the globe. I've been shooting destination weddings for a number of years, and now having this opportunity to actually live over here in Europe and network with the vendors and become a part of the culture has been, amazing.
Mm-hmm. What was the reason that you moved from the States to to Florence? Because we just spoke to a friend of ours, Alessandro, who took the opposite approach. He moved from was it Milan to LA.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So what was your reason for?
My reason for moving? My wife actually got a job out here. She's a European historian. She got her PhD at UCLA in California, and she wrote a book on international business and the foundation of the EU. And she's now been commissioned by them to write another book, and their lead archive is in Florence. So They packed us up and moved us out to Florence. And, fortunately with my, style of business, I'm pretty flexible with location. So this is, an awesome opportunity for me to invest out here and still be able to service everyone because we've got some major airports, hubs. This is just my new commuting spot.
It's a nice commuting spot.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah. And they set us up with this flat that's on like the 7th floor of, the highest building around. So we get this incredible view of the whole city and the countryside around. It's really beautiful.
Wow.
Very
so you
good.
were dragged screaming and kicking to Italy.
Yeah. The only hard thing was I had to finish my wedding season in the States. So my wife and son moved out here several months before me. And I was like, shooting and traveling for like 3 months before I could come. So I really got settled here in November and, been here since, but I'm going to be going back and forth. I've got a lot of travels coming up.
Mm-hmm. So you're going back to the States to shoot?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Airfare is so inexpensive that it just makes sense to continue to service everyone who inquires. I'm a little more selective on who I make myself available to, depending on the gig and the date. Mm-hmm. But I'm still able to help everyone out.
Very cool. Very cool. That's what Alessandro does as well. He travels to do the kind of American, elopement, big weddings in Italy as well. So yeah, it's cool. I've heard the market's slightly better over there.
Oh, in the States? Well, it's easier to be visible, that's for sure. Because of, the industry has various ways to, pay for marketing just to, I think social media is a bit more active out there. Mm-hmm. What I found out here in Italy is it's a lot more relationship based. It's who you know. Even outside of the industry, you can't always it's hard to even Google search, where to go, what to eat, or where to find even normal household things. You have to go to the market, ask the florist selling the flowers for the local market, and she'll lead you to this guy who knows who this person is, and you're just it's a community, and it's all about personal relationships outside of in the States, or I'll pay for a front page ad on The Knot and get various inquiries from that throughout the year. And out here it's oh yeah, this person is the one you go to. Here's his number.
Talking about building relationships, we met you through our connection with Mark Bukura during his roadie workshop.
Yeah, that was an incredible time.
It was, right? It was really cool. How were all the images that you got from it? Did you get quite a lot of good content?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I got a couple good sets out of that trip, and overall enjoyed everyone that we met. I'm actually going to go to the conference that Cole's putting on in southern France here in a few weeks. And I'm rooming with one of the guys that, will you guys be going to way up north?
We've not signed up for it, and I've got is it the 2nd of April? 2nd and 3rd of April?
Yeah, it's the first week of April.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a wedding on the 1st, so I don't think we'd be able to get there in time. So we're gonna have to miss it this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, the not only the experience of the road trip, roadie workshop, but the people we met, like you guys, like everyone else who was there. It was just a high caliber of photography and people. And to be on an awesome adventure like that was priceless.
Yeah, no, it was so good. Just driving around to places that if you went to Iceland yourself, you probably wouldn't really stumble upon. So it was great just driving around with these guys, just literally being tour guides, really.
Right. Yeah, Cole's been there something like 45 times, something crazy, and it's like his backyard. So he was like, "Oh, let's go over here, let's go over there." It was an awesome time. Yeah.
But it's nice to see, like, he kind of had a general route of where he wanted to shoot, but on the day, it was nice to see that the key tenets of photography still were upheld. You know, it was chase the light.
Right.
So
it felt very much like one of those shoots usually is. You're in the car and you hop out, shoot the scene in the light, then the light changes and you go to the next location and everyone hops back in the car and drives to the next spot And in my experience, it's the same way with clients when you're on this particular kind of shoot, destination wise or out in the wilderness or the beautiful nature.
But it was a great experience. Yeah, we've still to put together a longer form version of the video. I don't know. Did you get to see the shorter version?
Yeah, I love the trailer. It was awesome.
Yeah, it turned out pretty good. It did.
Yeah, we've got more to edit from that. There's definitely a few different cuts that we could do, and we'll do a slightly longer edit for Cole and Mark as well.
Yeah,
it was epic. That was awesome.
So, obviously, a very, very different experience. Sorry, excuse me.
Nothing like a beer in the morning.
That's right. Clear those lungs. Obviously, a very different experience working with so many photographers and, a number of different couples. But what got you started as a photographer? Like, what was it that drew your attention to the art form?
So, I have a background in fine art. When I was in university, I was a painter. So I've been classically trained in painting, and I studied art history and did a bit of traveling at that time too. I studied in Italy for 6 months while I was, at school as well. And while in school, I worked for a newspaper and shot photography for them. So I shot events and kind of got my bearings there. That was like my first professional work that I did. And I slowly transitioned my art form to photography. And I found that I could use similar aesthetics and understanding and use the camera with that same mentality in mind. And I started bringing that to my work. When I moved to LA after I graduated, I was approached by an old contact of mine who knew someone who was getting married in LA, low budget, asked if I was interested. And I said, absolutely. And, classic story. After the first wedding, I fell in love with the form. Just everything about the wedding day, used all of my skills and challenged me in all the right ways, where it was like shooting an event, shooting portraits, shooting details. You have every form of photography within one day.
Yeah.
And outside of the aesthetic, you have emotions and the people involved in the day, and that was also magical. I've been known to be quite the romantic in my I really enjoy love stories, so once I got sparked with that, it clicked, and that's what I wanted to do. So I dove in full force and pursued the business and have been growing it ever since.
Mm-hmm. Had you tried other forms of photography beforehand as part of your art education?
So yeah, I shot photojournalism for a number of years, and
Okay.
I did some product photography for a business. I've, done personal projects, outside of the wedding forms. I typically tend to be drawn to people. I'm really interested in, human connection, the emotion, and I like to, use light in a particular way and just kind of create art from like real moments. And
Yeah.
So, I'm always drawn back to weddings or portrait work, something that has meaning, as opposed to, photography gimmicks.
Yes. Although not to say that there aren't gimmicks in the wedding industry or trends that tend to happen.
Yeah, and I even do them too on the wedding. You get bored during a reception and you start playing with double exposures or whatever. You just you start playing. It's playing, but in the end you get something that doesn't really have meaning behind it, but it's cool looking.
Yeah.
There's places for each, but my heart's drawn to the real.
Yeah, that's one thing that I love about weddings, that you're right. In this one day, you have got so many opportunities to push the boat out, enhance your skills, shoot something a little bit different, and it's all very fast and I suppose kind of stressful.
Mm-hmm.
And I love being kept on my toes. And the fact that you have no control. So you're kind of, it's this weird balance of pretending you've got control and then like realizing that you actually don't. And that's why I love live events, that's why I love I probably the most fun part of a wedding, except for the couple shoot, because I just love just having fun with our couples. It's probably the dancing, because it's just crazy and everyone's lost their inhibitions a little bit, or you'd be hoping so, and they're just having a good time, and there's nothing in anyone's control. Like the people dancing, they don't know what they're doing. You with the camera, you don't know what you're doing. Like you have no idea what you're going to capture, what these people are going to be doing. So it's a really fun, like just like waiting for that moment. Like what's going to happen? Is there a moment over there? Should I be behind the bars? I love all that kind of spontaneity behind the party element of a wedding.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking about being out of control but in control, like because we do this every week, you can anticipate the action. People have certain patterns, and that gives your clients like a certain amount of trust in you. So you know what to anticipate, and then it's fun.
Yes.
It's not a scary thing because you're like, oh, here it comes. Yes, it happened.
Yeah, it's like I knew that was going to happen, and it did.
Yeah.
Do you feel that your art background? How do you feel that affects your photography? Do you pull on inspirations from that to bring into your wedding work?
Yeah, I try to at least. When I look at a scene or view light in a certain way, I'm often reflecting back to what I've seen in my education, and I've also taken advantage of being out here in Italy and in Europe with all the amazing museums available. I try to go at least once a week to study some of the old masters. I've also taken back up in some art courses. I go at night and do some like life drawing, and just to kind of challenge my creative ability in a different way, to like kind of exercise my brain in a way. So what I'll do when I approach these paintings or artworks is, if something strikes me, I look at it and study why is this impactful? Why is this bringing emotion to me, or why am I so drawn to it?
Yeah.
And then I when I identify those items within it, I look for that within my work. On the wedding day when I'm shooting, I'll look at a scene and say, like, I'm shooting all day. So when we go back into post-processing, I'll see some of those similar elements that were impactful in the master's work, in the photographs that I see, including motion, including emotion, connection, whatever it may be, a certain kind of dramatic light, isolation, and I incorporate those in my process.
Cool. Yeah, cool. Well, that kind of leads us on nicely to talking about your style then. Like, what makes your art yours?
So my style is unique in a way, especially compared to current wedding trends. You won't find a lot of, say, bright and airy pastel-y colors in my work. I'm more drawn to true color, rich, dramatic light. I'm, as I mentioned, I reference a lot of, old masters' work when editing, when shooting. And I look for certain things like isolating light. I use a lot of shadows and highlights, and I try to juxtapose them in a certain way to create drama or draw your eye to a certain place in the scene. And in a way that's not disruptive to real moments. So if I can kind of guide people to a certain location and then let the scene play out, I achieve both the real action and the aesthetic that I'm looking for. So it's, that's been at least my approach and what I'm always striving to. You'll see a lot of, backlighting, dramatic light. I use kind of a cinematic approach with off-camera lighting, or I'll draw curtains in a certain way to make it more directional. Instead of having everything exposed, I like to isolate.
Yeah, that's actually something that we have in common, except for in Scotland, you don't really get dramatic lighting. Or, I mean, well, you do, but it comes and goes so quickly. Yeah. That you're not able to kind of utilize it in any efficient way. You'd be very lucky on the days that you can. And there have been the few instances at weddings where, okay, it has been like the bright summer day, but yeah, you will find me like pulling curtains as well. And just like, there was one in particular with an American couple where I just had the light shine just on her during the preps. You could see nothing else. It was like she's in a dark void.
Yeah, the background just falls into blackness.
Yeah, it was, I just loved that. It made her feel so alone, and she had this very like somber look in her face. And I just thought, yes, this is exactly how I want to tell. Like, just start their story with this moment of being alone. But yeah. I much prefer playing with light instead of editing trickery. Like, zooms in and zooms out. We've got a very simple approach to filmmaking. There's no fast transitions. There's no, like, I don't know, crazy colors. It's all very similar. It's all very timeless, I suppose would be a good way of describing it. So yeah,
that's our goal, right? I don't want someone to look at the images and say, oh, that's so this decade, or I want them to look at the photos and say, wow, I can't believe that's me, and it's so impactful, and I want to capture the memory of the emotion.
Yeah.
You want families to look at the film in 20, 30 years and be like, wow, that's amazing. Not, oh my God, look at that spot color there.
Yeah. It hit me recently where, just reflecting on what I do and why I do it and who I'm shooting for. And I realized that I'm not really shooting for the client that's hiring me. I'm shooting for the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want these family members or loved ones to review the wedding day of the person that they're connected to and feel like that they were a part of it, and feel the things that they felt it themselves. And, with that, you have to like approach the day with so much love, like you are a part of this clan, and you want to just like give your whole self to them to, make sure that this memory is preserved.
Yeah.
That's funny, actually. Just this week, my neighbor got in touch with me because it's their 50th wedding anniversary, and they had a wedding film back then. So it was on like a reel,
Wow.
They got it digitized, and then they've gave it to me to sort of organize for them to show at their event. And it's so funny, like watching the people moving and seeing the bride coming out of the car to go into the church 50 years ago. It's amazing.
It unfortunately suffers from the times, because it's literally it's the cameraman following people into the church for a good 5 minutes, and then shots of the outside of the church,
Right.
and then shots of people coming out of the church.
Because there's no light.
Well, he's not. I find it really funny that they're not actually allowed into the church.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So it's funny. Churches have always been strict.
Although I did find out that it wasn't like they didn't hire someone to make this film. Even back then, 50 years ago, it was a friend that filmed it for them.
Wow.
So he must have just had a camera, and he was like, "You're the guy with a camera. You're filming this."
Okay. Well, that changes my opinion. I thought it was a professional. Okay.
But yeah, it's just people going into a church and people leaving a church.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I've heard that commissioners are still pretty strict in the UK, though, right? Like,
yeah, they are.
Yeah, there's certain parts of churches that you're not allowed to go past, and you're restricted on angles sometimes, but you kind of just have to accept that and just get creative with where you can go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we should probably say that that's not everyone.
Yeah.
There are some very nice, celebrants and priests out there who do respect what we do as creative individuals and what we do for our couples. So, yeah, it's just the bad, unfortunately, outweigh the good.
I mean, fortunately, like your clients, maybe many of them are from the UK and understand. So it's not like the expectation's set. They're not going to expect you behind the altar. They're going to expect you in the back of the church with the long Zoom or something. It's
well, Greg goes up to the front if he's being cheeky.
Promise, I'm an altar boy.
With Jack was designed from the ground up and is tailored specifically for creatives. Whether you provide a service like design, development or photography, or offer advice to clients, With Jack is for you. It's focused on creatives. Insurance shouldn't be complicated, so With Jack has made every step easy. You'll deal with one form and talk to one Jack as you sign up, get covered, and move on with your day. With Jack is all about bespoke insurance for creatives. Simple. That doesn't mean more forms or faff, it means less. It's not about endless features and stale service. It's about one solid policy and the personal touch. Bye-bye unnecessary fuss. Hello, creative friendly insurance. Be a confident creative. Let's talk about what it's like to break into a new market. Obviously, you recently turned your life upside down. How did you feel when you realized you were going to have to start kind of from the ground up? Or was that not the case?
Well, I'm definitely starting in a new market. And because of the travel restrictions, I have to be more selective on who I service at home. So there was definitely a major transition happening. And initially moving out here, I didn't know how to be visible. I knew that my work would stand up once people knew about me, and I'm confident in my service. I just didn't know how to market myself. Mm-hmm. So as we discussed earlier, it really came down to relationships. I reached out to everyone I knew, who lived in Europe in the industry, asked for advice, asked for any connections that they could lead me to, you guys included, and started from there. Then I started cold calling just as many vendors as I could, saying, hey, want to introduce myself? I'll buy you coffee. I'll travel to where you are. I just, want to tell you about myself and my service and offer, anything you guys need and see if we can collaborate in the future. And that actually worked really well. It was a lot of work, kind of ruthlessly following up.
Yeah.
Trying just to get my name out there. And I've made some really good relationships with those pursuits. And now the inquiries are rolling in. People are, putting me on lists that there's, the wedding coordinators, especially they're just, just to have my name on a list that they give to their clients is priceless, because otherwise I would not be known. So that's how this first season out here has been working. And I've made several bookings, and it's been really positive experience, much better than I expected, to be honest. And, because I started a little late, I really only hit the ground running when I arrived here. In the end, I wish that I started earlier. I wish that I started making those cold calls before I moved.
Right.
But I was so consumed in, like you said, flipping my life upside down. I had to, because my wife and son moved before me, I was the one who like packed up all of our belongings and physically moved ourselves. And in the middle of a wedding season, you're in October when this is happening.
Oh my God, yeah.
And, also moving myself and making sure that all my clients are serviced. So it was like a really hectic time for me. But I wish that I put more time into this networking so that the inquiries and the relationships I have now would have started earlier. But I can't complain, because people have given me a shot. They have, given me the opportunity to introduce myself. And once they see my work and meet me in person, many of them, well, all of them have, been really encouraging and wanting to work with me. I guess there's an advantage to me speaking English out here, having most of the clients that they're targeting are destination from the UK or US or Australia, or, people wanting to get married in Tuscany. So, not having a local Italian, they're saying, hey, this guy's really skilled. He's got, training and experience in America, which is like one of the most developed wedding industries. And his style's unique. Here you go. And it's been, really positive response.
Yeah, actually being able to speak the same language as your couples, as well as everything else that you mentioned, is actually super important for just having your couple feel secure.
Yeah.
I remember when we were shooting in Italy one time, and the photographer that they had booked didn't speak English. He did have a translator, I believe, but I think it was a second shooter, but she wasn't shooting that day. She was just there to kind of speak English, except for she didn't really speak English all too well. And so our couple actually turned to us for pretty much any communication that they would do. They really, even though they're having their photographs taken, they would always be chatting to us. And that built such a good rapport. When they travel, when they're in London, or if they come up to Scotland, we're always on their mind. And that's super lovely, just to be able to just like go out and meet a client after years of filming their wedding.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's super important.
Yeah, I think if you're traveling from the US to Italy or Europe to get married, you want somebody who, like as a photographer or filmmaker, you spend a lot of time sort of in close proximity to the couple.
Yeah.
So if you have that sort of common connection or common language that you can just sort of generally chat and get on with them, it just makes it so much easier. So you're right, like the planners will love the fact that their couples will feel at home working with you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Many of them have expressed like, oh, great. Now I won't have to babysit the photographer and translate all day. And I don't know, like you said, like having that commonality, like this past weekend, just like being able to joke around with the bride, like having similar context with understanding culturally, we immediately process out of the church and the bride is approached by a peddler, like, please give me money. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And we both just like died, like this would never happen. But it was just, one of those moments that we like looked at each other and were like, we get it. This is insane. Like, can't believe it.
Yeah.
When you were sort of reaching out to other vendors, did you notice a big difference when you managed to get sort of a coffee meeting with them? Was there a big difference when you had that sort of in-person connection?
It's essential. Yeah. If they weren't willing to meet in person, I try to schedule a Skype call or a phone call or video conference. The ones that were resistant to meeting in person, I haven't really heard much from since. Even after following up, it's still just like, I think it's just because of that impersonal connection. Like when you meet someone in person and you break bread together, share commonality or talk about the industry, there's something like you won't forget.
Yeah.
And another particular vendor had a personal project that they were working on, or they needed service for another vendor. There was like a chocolatier who was coming out with a new product. So she said, "Hey, like, let's help you build more relationships. I'll introduce you to these people." And we got to shoot at an amazing venue and do this. It wasn't a wedding, but now I'm like really connected to these vendors and everyone who was involved in that project. And it just like expanded the network more. So any opportunity I get to meet people or, be active within the industry, a good member of the community, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the community. Did you have any thoughts and opinions on the Italian wedding market before you went over there? Like, did you have any views or expectations?
I wasn't sure what to expect. Because I'm American, I didn't know if we first talk about the wedding industry community here, I assumed that they'd be pretty closed off. Like you throw a stone outside and you'll hit 100 photographers. Not all wedding necessarily, but there's just like so many people with cameras and it's like flooded because of the destination. But it's come to be really communal. Like we mentioned earlier, the relationships that I have connected with, like they feel like real bonds, like real friendships, and that was surprising to me in a way because Florence is such a small town compared to a place like LA where I'm from. This local community feel, like this everyone's supporting each other, was a real shift or a real change. In LA, I definitely carved that out in smaller sections. I had a wonderful network of industry leaders there who we referred work to each other, and we were collaborative and helped each other's businesses all along the way. And moving here, I was afraid to lose that, but I've really found it in a different way because of the the size and proximity. Like, yes, there are a lot of people who come here, but the people who are actually based here are really connected.
Do you feel, when we were talking to Alessandro in the last episode, he was talking about how people didn't really share information and stuff. So he was talking about within the photographer and filmmaker communities, it was quite insulated there.
Right.
But whereas in America and the UK, there's a lot of sort of sharing of knowledge and raising everybody up. Are your sort of communities, do you feel it is mainly other vendors, or is there other photographers that are sharing knowledge as well?
Well, the photographers I have had a little more difficulty with. There have been a couple that have been really welcoming, and I found them through really American networks.
Right.
They were featured in Looks Like Film, or they were, one guy in particular was a rangefinder, up and coming. He won the award in like 2016. And he had this like wonderful understanding of where I was coming from, and he's been like really great to collaborate with. And we're actually having lunch this afternoon, and those are the people that have really connected. But I think it's because they've embraced the American culture of this kind of industry, and he's expressed to me that people are very on guard with collaboration. They don't share work. So I'm still so new to the market here that I haven't experienced that backlash, and it's not my place, and I'm not trying to steal any work from anyone. I'm happy to refer when the time is right.
Yeah.
But I'm still building that community.
I think a lot of people forget that you can get business from other photographers rather than feeling that their work is going to be stolen, which I feel like is maybe the difference in the mindset,
Right.
Compared to over here or America to, some of the European markets.
Yeah, I think once you've been in the industry long enough, you realize that there is no secrets. So you might as well chat to people and share your knowledge. And yeah, once people get to a certain level, it is sort of shared. And Europe is such a small place compared to the US that
Right.
you can chat to a photographer from Germany or Spain, and it's still like a good community.
Yeah, and everyone gets elevated then, and the work gets elevated. The clients are better serviced, and everyone's better off when there is that collaboration. But people are guarded, and understandably so. It's not an easy industry to be in. You're it's a hustle to get gigs and service your clients, and I understand why some people can be guarded, but like you guys said, in my experience, the collaboration efforts are really fruitful, and it makes it more fun to be in the industry when you have colleagues that you can bounce ideas off of.
Yeah. You obviously mentioned the popularity for weddings in Italy, and I wonder if that popularity has anything to do with that mindset, because I know of a few photographers in the Skye region of Scotland who, because of Instagram, like everyone's getting married in Skye, and there are people going to Skye to shoot elopements for free, or so I do wonder if that's the case with.
There's definitely a lot of that here. Like, people will shoot for nothing. So it's really interesting when I present my prices to planners. I've had complete mixed responses. Some are saying like, "Oh, you're too cheap," and then others are saying, "Wow, you're way too expensive." So I figured that's the right sign. I'm like right perfectly in the middle to jump in here.
Yeah.
But, I do carve out those people who are looking for the free photographer, but I'm also, just jumping in. So I want to be competitive against like the ultra high end. So
what is ultra high end price wise in the Italian market that you've discovered?
So it looks like the ultra high end is like 5K, 4,500 to 5K for wedding out here. Yeah. And obviously you get even higher, like the 10,000 euro photographer, but that's a different kind of client for sure.
Going back to you coming into the market, were there any tools that you used other than your phone and making relationships? Like, did you use like Instagram? Did you use Facebook? Or what are the popular kind of tools of the trade for socializing and relationship building?
So Instagram here, just like many other places, is essential. It's kind of like drinking water or daily exercise. You just have to get your work out there. And I do put a lot of effort and thought into my posts and the way they lay out in the grid. Obviously, with like algorithm changes, the visibility has significantly decreased from previous years. And it's not necessarily because of the work that I'm producing, but it's because of just the way the program is working now. But I try to ignore that and still put the same effort in because I find that people who seek my work or look me up end up just looking at the grid. So it's like a live portfolio. It's a way for me to like actively push newer work. Because updating the website for me, especially, I don't know, it's something that I always put to the side, and I don't keep the website as up to date as I should. So, putting more efforts into keeping a good grid on my Instagram. And then since moving here, I put a lot more time into preparing blog posts to like increase SEO, just to kind of get the message out that, I'm here, I'm a destination photographer, you can hire me, I'll go anywhere. And I'm willing to travel for you and love to. I guess the key tools, Instagram, and I just share my Instagram to my business Facebook page just to keep that active. And then, blog posts on my website.
And obviously, like we met at the workshop in Iceland, so out with tools. Do you attend these sort of things with the sort of idea of, it's portfolio building and knowledge, but there's also the big part of building connections while you're there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the networking aspect of workshops or conferences is like definitely at this point in my career, a larger percentage than the educational. As with you guys, like I feel like my portfolio is filled and fit with, great content from around the world. So doing a workshop like the Roadie one was fruitful for the experience. and the content building and the education. Those were top notch. Really appreciated it. But also, the tier of quality of photographer or creative that were a part of the workshop were really high at my priority list to meet people and to just expand myself, especially coming to this new market. I knew that the more Europeans I can meet, the better, just to kind of get myself into the community out here.
Yeah. I was really impressed with that. The quality of photographers that was on the roadie workshops, like
For sure.
the attendees were like really good quality photographers, and it's like these are guys that are, I don't know, coming to attend a workshop.
Right.
Yes. Even the models were great photographers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
That's right.
I couldn't believe it. I actually didn't realize they were photographers until they came into the
second day.
the space in Reykjavik. Yeah. They did so well. Do you remember how cold they got? Like, they were turning blue at one point.
The end of the day was unnecessary. We shouldn't have done that.
You're right.
They were, obviously game and fearless or anything, but it was just like that last area where we were by that frozen lake and the wind was blowing and they were just holding each other, and it was bad news.
Yeah. I don't think Nathan was feeling too well the next day.
I think he suffered a wee bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
they got put through the ringer, but we all got great content for it.
we did. It looks great. Yeah. Thank you guys.
They were super appreciative too. Like they definitely, were happy to get these photos. I think it was their 10th anniversary or something coming up. So they were appreciative to document this time in their life for sure.
Yeah. It was cool. It was cool having that opportunity to do that for them. So, do you have any advice for anyone uprooting their whole life and moving to a different location? Well, whether that be on a business or personal level, like, because it cannot have been easy.
Just be smart about it. I think I set certain securities in place, such as making myself available to the California market. I still left myself open. I still have an office in LA with someone who takes inquiries for me and kind of helps me, produce that. So having that security, still having income when joining a new market, it gave me that sense of security. Also, my wife is employed. The income level out here in Italy is much less than what we were used to in California, but the cost of living is also less. So it kind of balanced out. But set the right securities in place. Make sure you have, the boring numbers, like make sure you have enough savings to cover yourself in case it doesn't work. And then network. Like I can't emphasize enough, like relationship building, offer to collaborate, be a good member of the community. And, as long as your work is up to par, you're going to get work. Like people will find you. And, as long as you're visible.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you mentioned earlier that you wish that you had started networking before you moved. So is that a big piece of advice you would give then?
Yeah, I think don't be afraid to send out the email blasts ahead of time and put a start date. So that was something I was like, how can I set up meetings if I'm not even there? Why put the effort in? But I wish that I did, just to get my name out there, even just to throw it out there and then follow up when I did arrive. I feel like it would have sped things up a little bit more. But
So now that you've been there for quite a while and you're filling up the calendar with European bookings, how do you feel about the move now?
Oh, I can't be more grateful for the opportunity. On a business level, just to be able to expand myself to this region of the world. California is one great destination in itself, which people seek out. And now I have, Tuscany and Europe, and I'm the most privileged person I've ever met. Like to have this opportunity to grow my business and to, build content and service my clients everywhere. Like I couldn't be more grateful.
Yeah. So now that you're settled, do you have any aspirations for 2019, 2020, or like what's your plans?
So my goal is to for my business to shift the balance. So right now I'm still heavier shooting in the US, and
Right.
around the US because my brand is solid out there and I'm
Yeah.
still, I have my established business. So the next couple years, I definitely want to balance it out. I still want to service, across the globe, but I want to get at least half or more local weddings to keep myself, in Tuscany, in Italy, and Europe, and around, to, as well as the U.S. So a better balance is my goal. So I'm going to continue to hit the phones, just try to introduce myself. Got way up north in a few weeks where, I'm hoping to meet more people in the industry and just tell my story and, get my name out there.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us this morning.
Absolutely. It was such a pleasure. Great to catch up with you guys, and we should do it again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And next time you're in the UK or Scotland or anything,
Absolutely.
just get in contact.
Yeah, absolutely. My wife actually has some work in Glasgow. She's back and forth, so maybe I'll hop on one of her work trips and come give you guys a visit.
Yeah,
definitely. Totally should.
Yeah.
Totally should.
Totally.
Before we head off, though, where can people find you online, or where can they reach out to you?
So my website is dansauerphotography.com. I'm on Instagram at dan.sauer, and my last name's spelled like sauerkraut. It's Sauer. So yeah, that's those are the best places to find me. And if anyone wants to, if you're in the region, hit me up. I'm always down for a coffee. And if you're looking for photo work, I'm always available anywhere.
Cool.
Very cool.
We'll put those links in the show notes
Yep.
in case you didn't get the spelling right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, enjoy your lunch. Is that a lunch that you're
Yeah, it's
going?
about lunchtime.
Yeah.
That's right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good. And
Cool. We'll
Cool.
speak soon.
all right.
Sounds good.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
gentlemen.
Yeah.
Talk to you later.
And where can people find us, Greg?
They can find us at Cinemate Films and cinematefilms.co.uk. If you want more information about the podcast, you're best going to cinematefilms.co.uk/podcast, and you'll get some links there to subscribe or get to the show notes
That's
or
right.
anything that we mentioned in the episode.
Yep. And now it's time for a review shout out. Greg has his phone to hand. He's just scrolling through. Let's randomly pick someone. Who's it gonna be? This is a long drum roll.
Keep 'em Coming is the title, and it's by Jay Goley, who we assume is Jay and Christina
Hello.
from Elemental Photography, previous guests. Love the podcast. Who knew insurance could actually be interesting? Mind blown.
It's true.
Huge high five for doing this. It must be a huge amount of work, but you're so good at it, so please don't stop. Looking forward to catching up on episodes I've missed soon. Thank you very much, Jay. And I'm going to thank Christina as well, because I'm sure she had a hand in that review.
Yeah, no, 100%. Funnily enough, they mentioned insurance. I just wanted to spotlight Ashley's with Jack again. Obviously, there was a sponsor note in the middle of the podcast, but I saw Ashley the other week on Facebook post a new product, and she was very excited about it. So I thought I would, read her post out. She's excited to announce a legal expenses to with Jack. The product will help you get paid, give you access to legal advice 24/7, prevent loss of earnings whilst on jury duty, and help with tax disputes and investigations. Legal expenses is just one of the several products With Jack will ship this year. The bigger vision is for With Jack to become the platform that helps you keep freelancers in business. This is another step towards that. Sorry for all the legal jargon, but I just love talking about insurance. Damn you, Ashley. You've made me excited about something that's boring. Love you. Yeah, we hope you have enjoyed this episode. And if you did, hit that subscribe button just so you know when the next episode goes online. Please leave a review. That really is a massive help. And if it's cool enough, we'll shout out your name. That's pretty cool. But if you don't want to do that, totally understand. Maybe you're in the car or something. Why don't just use your phone illegally. Pick it up, call a friend, tell them about this
Do
amazing.
not endorse that. Pull the car over.
Okay, just hey Siri, call my best friend.
That
Oh no,
actually
I've
activated one in this office.
Oops. Yes. Don't drive illegally, but just tell a friend.
Siri, we're not talking to you.
I've ruined this.
Siri,
Greg,
stop. Does that work?
Wow, it really did say.
God damn it!
No, I apologize for all that nonsense. That was my fault. Yes, don't drive illegally, but definitely just tell a friend. Tell a friend when you park, kick out your car, just shout it. I listened to a great podcast. Yay! Anyway,
until next time,
enjoy your life.